This is the presentation about Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She is an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. Ketanji Brown Jackson was born on September 14, 1970 in Washington, D.C. to Johnny and Ellery Brown. Both of Ketanji's parents were teachers, but the family moved to Miami from Washington so her father could attend the University of Miami Law School, while her mother was the sole provider for the family. Ketanji's desire to become a judge came from the many nights of sitting with her father while he studied at their kitchen table. Ketanji attended public schools in Florida, and while in high school, she was voted most likely to succeed and most talented. Ketanji was also a very talented member of the school's debate team and was very impressive with her speaking abilities. In middle school, she was elected as mayor of the junior high. When she was looking for college in high school, she told her guidance counselor that she would like to attend Harvard. Justice Jackson was warned not to set her sights quite so high. However, Justice Jackson did set her sights high and not only attended Harvard University, but graduated magna cum laude in 1992. Justice Jackson then continued her education and earned her Juris Doctorate from Harvard University Law School in 1996. Between the years of 1996 and 2002, Justice Jackson held several different positions. Jackson was a law clerk for several of those years, and from 1999 to 2000, she was a clerk for the Honorable Stephen Breyer on the Supreme Court of the United States. Justice Jackson also worked in private practice for many years and was also a public defender for a period of time. Jackson served on the U.S. Sentencing Commission and the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia from 2013 to 2021 after she was nominated by Barack Obama in 2013. President Biden then nominated Justice Jackson for a seat on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit in 2021. Then, on February 28, 2022, President Biden nominated Justice Jackson for a vacated seat on the U.S. Supreme Court. Justice Jackson's confirmation hearing was heard before the Senate Judiciary Committee from March 21st to March 24th. She was confirmed by the Senate with a vote of 53 to 47. Justice Jackson is the first Black female to be confirmed to the to the Supreme Court of the United States. Several issues were brought up during Justice Jackson's confirmation hearing. This includes pushback from the Republicans due to how she handled child pornography cases when she was a federal judge. Many senators said that Justice Jackson was way too lenient on offenders and would often sentence offenders below the sentencing guidelines. Of course, she pushed back, stating that she took any type of case like this very seriously and would take into account all factors when sentencing offenders. Jackson's judicial philosophy was also an issue of debate. Justice Jackson claims that she subscribes to originalism and textualism, but refuses to pick one over the other. Senators also attacked her over the issue of court packing. Justice Jackson stated she did not have an opinion of this matter because it is not a question for her to answer. She pointed directly to the Constitution that gives the power to Congress regarding how many seats there are on the Supreme Court. Justice Jackson simply stated, as a judge and not a policymaker, she would stay in her lane with that question. Ketanji Jackson met her now husband, Patrick Jackson, at Harvard. Patrick Jackson grew up white and privileged to the point to where his grandmother told him she would pay for his medical school. However, Jackson was afraid once his grandmother found out that he was dating a Black girl, she would no longer pay for his education. However, when she voiced these concerns to Patrick, his words to her was, "I choose you." Patrick did go on to become a surgeon, and the two married in 1996. They went on to have two daughters, Talia and Lila. And in this picture, you can see her husband, Patrick, in the blue suit with the light blue tie, and then her daughter, Talia, looking at her from behind during her confirmation hearing. Now, this brings us to the discussion of Justice Jackson's judicial philosophy. So, according to Jackson, she follows the lines of originalism and textualism, but has her own method of looking at cases. Justice Jackson first makes sure that she looks at the case from a neutral perspective. Secondly, she evaluates all the facts and evidence in the case. And then thirdly, she interprets the law pertaining to these facts. Jackson has stated, I believe the Constitution is fixed in its meaning. I believe that it's appropriate to look at the original intent, original public meaning. But again, that's a limitation on my authority to import my own policy. So, one of the biggest and most controversial decisions handed down by the Supreme Court was regarding the indictments of former President Donald Trump. This was the first time in history that a former president was being prosecuted for alleged crimes committed while being president of the United States. So, to water the case down significantly, uh, Trump contended that he was acting in official capacity as the president when the alleged crimes took place. I apologize. Took place and should be granted immunity. Trump won this decision 6-3, but Justice Jackson wrote a very powerful dissent about the decision. Jackson warned in this decision that this could result in presidential abuse of power and completely undermine the rule of law. And if you've not read this brief on this case, I highly suggest you do. It's very interesting. The second case that I would like to talk about is McElrath in Georgia. So McElrath was found guilty of felony murder, but was found not guilty of malice murder, a higher degree of murder charge by means of insanity. So the case was remanded to the Georgia Supreme Court because of the conflicting verdicts, and they were found to be in direct conflict and were sent back to the state court for retrial. McElrath appealed again and stated that he should not be retried for a crime that he had already been found not guilty of by reason of insanity. So this case was then taken to the Supreme Court, and they found that McElrath should not be tried again because he was already found guilty of the malice murder by reason of insanity. So, lastly, Ketanji Brown Jackson has just recently published a book, and it is entitled Lovely One. The reason that it is called Lovely One is because her name, Ketanji, actually means lovely one in African. So, in this book, Justice Jackson recounts her childhood with her supportive parents, but also addresses the struggles that she endured growing up Black in the South. She talked about her relationship with her husband, Patrick, and the struggles that she had learning to trust him and his intentions. However, for the most part, Justice Jackson's memoir is a story of determination and perseverance that allowed her to achieve the dreams that she is living today. And here are my references.